What's up folks, I'm Dev and welcome to dev.arcade. In this video I'll be going over the abilities of each of the Wayfinders that are available on early access launch so you can have a better idea of who you want to pick when you start playing the game. You can find any specific character you're looking for just by using the chapters. Just to note, this video won't be covering weapons as they'll be released soon in their own separate videos, and I'll be bringing out in-depth guides for each of the Wayfinders once the game releases. Now when you first select a character in Wayfinder, you are locked into that choice, and the only way to unlock new Wayfinders is to then go out, find all the necessary components, and craft them. While it does give you a chance to try out all the starting characters before making your choice, this video should help you get an idea on who you want to choose as your starting character and who you want to work towards unlocking next. The first three characters, Wingrave, Silo, and Niss, can be selected when you first launch the game, and the second three characters, Senja, Kyros, and Venomess, can only be unlocked in-game. So first up on the character breakdowns, Wingrave. Wingrave excels in close combat. He is the simplest of the Wayfinders in terms of complexity, and he specializes in supporting allies, summoning shields of light, and healing, as he calls down divine judgment on his enemies. As a character that falls into more of the tank healer category, his strengths lie in support and defense, while having some offense to help with the team's damage output. His passive ability is called Healing Pulse, which causes melee finishers to heal Wingrave and one nearby ally. His first ability, Righteous Strike, is an arced melee attack that causes an explosion of healing energy to shoot out and heal Wingrave and nearby allies whenever it hits an enemy. His second ability, Radiant Pulse, forms a divine shield that blocks projectiles and boosts defense of allies standing behind it. His third ability, Judgment, marks enemies, and anyone that hits a marked enemy will restore their own health. His ultimate ability, Divine Aegis, creates a powerful barrier that makes anyone standing in it immune to damage while healing them over time. Silo switches easily between melee and ranged combat, such as distracting his foes with illusions, slowing them with oil, or burning them with fire, potentially setting off deadly chain reactions. As a ranged crowd control character, his strengths lie in support, ranged, and control, while still having a little offense and defense to maintain survivability. Silo's passive ability is called Strategic Advantage, which deals bonus melee and range damage to enemies that have a debuff on them. His first ability, Firebomb, is a ranged attack where you throw a firebomb that ignites enemies, dealing damage over time. This ability also causes a chain reaction with his second ability, Oil Bomb. Oil Bomb leaves a pool of oil in front of Silo, slowing enemies and causing them to take additional damage. Oil Bomb can then be exploded with a Firebomb to cause even more damage. His third ability, Proto Clone, causes you to quickly dash backwards, leaving behind a clone that pulls nearby enemies in. The clone will taunt nearby enemies into attacking it until it expires. His ultimate ability, Arc Nemesis, sends out Egg to shock all enemies in the area, dealing a burst of damage. Egg remains in the area for a short time, slowing and damaging nearby enemies. Niss is an Eldrin Shadow Dancer, and she's at her best when she's in motion. She dances around her enemies, defending herself with a cloak of shadows and then striking them down with spectral blades. As a DPS character, her strengths lie in support, offense, and range. What she lacks in control and defense, she makes up for in agility and damage. Niss's passive ability is called Lingering Shadow, where you gain attack power for a short duration after dodging. Her first ability, Shadow Step, causes you to dash in a line, dealing damage. After a short delay, a Gloom clone will dash from your initial position to you, dealing damage to enemies. Her second ability, Umbral Aura, empowers Niss with Umbral Magic, causing her next three dodges to pierce a nearby enemy with shadow. Her third ability, Vengeful Shade, causes you to briefly become immune to attacks and damage by enemies from the front. Her ultimate ability, Gloom Shroud, allows you to use the ability Shadow Step at no cost for a few seconds. Senja loves to put on a show. She delights in close combat and can use her affinity for the storm to drag her enemies close or blast them across the battlefield in a burst of lightning. As a brawler character, her strengths lie in control, defense, and offense, with some support abilities to help boost her allies. Senja's passive ability is called Crowd Favorite, and while holding certain abilities, Senja will start to showboat. While showboating, she can't be staggered, takes reduced damage, and it increases the crowd's favor, which boosts Senja's attack damage and ability power. With her first ability, Gladiator Pummel, You can punch forward, then hold to showboat. On release, Senja punches again and buffs her next weapon attack. Fully showboating increases the damage of the follow-up punch. With her second ability, Gain Favor, you can hold it to showboat for the roaring crowd, which fills the crowd's favor. On release, Senja taunts nearby enemies while buffing herself and her allies. Her third ability, Lightning Blast, uses a bolt of lightning to pull all displaceable enemies towards Senja in a large area. Her ultimate ability, Grand Finale, causes Senja to throw a lightning spear at an enemy and then charge to smash into them, dealing massive damage and fully filling the crowd's favor. While Kyros prefers to avoid close combat, he wields tremendous mystical power. He can scatter foes with blasts of raw energy and crush enemies with a massive shockwave. As a mid-range damage-focused character, his strengths lie purely in range and offense. Kyros' passive ability is called Arcane Fragments, and you can generate Arcane Fragments by using the ability Siphon Radiant and landing combo finishes. Arcane Fragments are automatically consumed to grant extra charges of the ability Savage Rake. His first ability, Savage Rake, is a medium-ranged attack that rakes the ground with violent energy, dealing damage to all enemies in front of Kyros. Arcane Fragments can be consumed to cast Savage Rake at no cost. His second ability, Siphon Radiant, releases a wave of energy around Kyros that damages enemies and absorbs arcane power, reducing cooldowns and granting an arcane fragment. His third ability, Arcane Focus, marks enemies in an area. As marked enemies are hit, the mark builds up in power and then detonates. His ultimate ability is called Hand of Reckoning, and it summons a giant hand that deals a massive amount of damage to enemies in a large radius around Kyros. Venomess loves to play with her prey, and she can switch between ranged and melee combat with ease. Her chemicals can poison enemies and strengthen her allies, and her thrusters give her tremendous mobility. Being a damage-dealing healer, her strengths lie in support, range, and offense, while using her thrusters to avoid damage. Venomess's passive ability is called Master of Venoms, which causes any of her weapon hits to apply venom, dealing damage over time, and this stacks up to 5 times. Any weapon that hits an enemy with 5 stacks of venom creates a poison cloud, which deals damage and applies even more stacks of venom. Her first ability, Transfusion, shoots a volley of poison needles that lock onto nearby enemies, dealing damage. Hitting an enemy with a needle causes a healing projectile to seek out a nearby Wayfinder. These projectiles heal over time based on the number of stacks of venom on the source enemy. Her second ability, Vampiric Blast, launches a bomb that absorbs up to 5 nearby poison clouds. After a brief delay, the bomb explodes, dealing damage to enemies and healing allies based on the number of poison clouds absorbed. Her third ability, Venom Thrusters, allows you to dash in a direction, leaving a trail of poison clouds behind you. Poison clouds damage and apply stacks of venom to enemies. Her ultimate ability, Deep Breath, fires a massive explosion that damages and applies 5 stacks of empowered venom to enemies. Empowered venom deals damage over time and counts as additional stacks of venom for the Master of Venom and Transfusion abilities. And that's it. That is an overview of every character available in the Wayfinder Early Access. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more Wayfinder content. See ya!